Hey, what's up YouTube? Welcome back. Today we're going to be covering my favorite builds for the attack on Cyberstan. It's been about around 7 days, a week since we started the attack, and I've been getting a ton of questions about what my favorite builds are so far this week, and I wanted to give you like a bunch of different options. Some more anti-infantry, some for I hate Vox engines, and a little bit in between. I want to go over primary, secondary, grenade, stratagems as well, and how I was using them, and maybe some like flex picks if you don't particularly like a certain stratagem or want to alter it in a different way. So let's get into it. Starting off with what I'm wearing and what I'm using on just my character. I gotta say the heavy fortified armor is just my go-to. I got tired of getting one shot by the Vox engines, either using light armor and getting one shot by their torpedoes or just getting absolutely blasted by their laser cannons. I do feel as if I survive best in this armor. You might know that I like hard camp the heavy medic armor a lot of the time when I'm playing against automatons, but I find myself putting it down for heavy explosive armor just to be able to survive those like headshots from the lasers on that first like volley. Like the amount of times that it's just like outright one-shot me is immense. So this has got to be a must pick. You obviously don't have to have this particular one. There's obviously the one from Democratic Detonation. There's another one from Superstore. There's one from the base War Bond as well. So you have a lot of options. I think the flex pick for a lot of it would be like Fortified Commando if you just feel like you're taking too much general damage and it's not necessarily explosive, but you will start getting absolutely destroyed by those laser cannons because a 50% reduction to explosive damage, very noticeable. I would definitely look into it. Obviously, some other nice picks are like more stealth armor. You know, some people, if you're bringing a thermite or just grenades in general, engineering kit, I really don't think you can go wrong with a lot of heavy armor because we're dealing with Jet Brigade. I wouldn't probably recommend the Salamander, but let's say all of a sudden we saw Incendiary Core. Salamander works really well, but obviously it's a personal expression to what your build and how you like to play is. So keep an eye out for different armors that might fit you, but heavy explosive if you're just tired of getting one shot. All right, next we're going to start off with the crossbow, probably the best overall primary for the Cyborg faction in general, just because it one-shots radicals, one-shots agitators. Very good at both those particular enemies, and it actually does perform pretty well against the vents of the Vox. You know, you're looking at an average of 2, just make sure you're actually hitting the bolt on the particular vent. It does like to bounce if you're at too great of an angle, so be careful with that, and you're not really doing damage elsewhere, so really just there. Can be a bit awkward for the one down below, so keep that in mind, but it's just so freaking good. Just spawn camp the bots as they're coming down on the dropships. This is like your GL primary. It's just so good. It's hard for me not to just use this all the time. It pains me to move away from it, but you know, for sheer variety, I typically do. You probably already know that. Just so good in general. Ultimatum feels like kind of a staple. You're going to notice it as a repeating theme in a lot of the builds I talk about today. The Ultimatum is just kind of a weapon that I use a lot just because of how good it is versus Vox. Also really good against War Striders when you get that variant. It always sucks when you have like 3 War Striders right in front of you and you can at least take out 2, maybe 3 if you get some good splash damage. So Ultimatum just kind of sticks around. Next with our build, I want to bring more attention to the ArcRaiders. I think too many people kind of ignore how good they actually are. I love using these. They're just so good for a choke point or like all the devastators falling into one particular spot on like a defense of a flag. I know if I throw a grenade there that a lot of the enemies will most likely get destroyed, but quite a few will probably at least get stunned and damaged, so I could just mop them up afterwards. So it kind of feels like a mixture of just a regular high explosive grenade that just keeps bouncing over and over again doing considerable damage, but also stun grenades. It's just like a better stun grenade in so many ways. Just be careful. If you're standing next to this thing, it will take you out. Try to prone. It will be more likely not to hit you. I have definitely been hit while prone quite often, so just be careful. Okay, next going into our stratagems. We have the AMR, Supply Backpack, Gatling Barrage, and then I was using the 380 with this one. So to explain, this is mostly a build that I feel like can kind of just go toe-to-toe with most, if not all, enemies outside of maybe the Vox. But if you play a little bit aggressive, you can take out a lot of the vents extremely fast with just being able to one-tap all the vents and then immediately throw in a grenade. You know, your arc grenades do work. So yeah, I really like this for taking out Devastators. War Striders, go for the eye. If you're not comfortable going for the eye, go for the joint, and then the leg last. Not the best for taking out War Striders, but it can do it effectively. Obviously, a one-shots Hulks, which is just amazing. It just feels like a very versatile weapon setup. And because you brought the supply backpack, you got tons of stims, tons of primary ammo, and then you have the ability to use your AMR like a primary weapon if you want. But because you have the crossbow, I'm mostly using the crossbows for large groups of enemies, and then like instigators and the occasional radical that runs at me. And then I'm mostly using my AMR for like Devastators individually, gunships, Hulks, War Striders, taking out vents on Vox, so on and so forth. Next, we have Gatling Barrage. I really enjoy Gatling Barrage on this particular planet, being Cyberstan. It's just so good. You know, if you notice a Vox is dropping down, I usually almost immediately throw the Gatling Barrage where they're going to land so I can get some shots down, and hopefully they don't move too much before the Gatling Barrage starts to miss them, unfortunately. And then lastly, I have the 380. The 380 is just there. Whenever there's a bot drop, I just immediately toss this at where I think the center of the dropships are going to land. Just really good for thinning out the overall bot presence. And if you get fairly lucky, which it does happen a lot, this might just eliminate the vast majority of the resources of the bot drops. So you end up not having to really deal with that much. My only negative to the 380 is because you're on tier 10, you're most likely not using localized confusion. The 380's cooldown can very often be a little bit too long because you're looking at like the 205 seconds. So it can feel a little too long. So you might not have a 380 for every single bot drop, but if you can alternate it with someone else, that's really strong. So really love this build overall. Just kind of like your basic run and gun. It feels so powerful with the AMR. I highly recommend it. Next, for my second build, I have more of like a team support role in a way, but also someone that can like hold down the front line, especially with the new shield grenade. So starting out with our primary, we have the Trident. If you haven't been using it, I highly recommend it. This auto shotty is fantastic. Top tip though, I find a lot of people just holding down the fire button because it's automatic. Don't do that. You actually don't want to fire it automatic because you want to allow it to cool down a little bit between every shot. So if you slow down the fire rate by like maybe 30% or so, you can actually fire it significantly more without it overheating. So it's really freaking good. Also for like accuracy, everybody's always asking me, how are you sniping Devastator eyes from so far away? Treat it like a normal laser weapon and just keep firing. Chances are the lasers will eventually hit where you're aiming exactly. So you can actually snipe Devastators kind of similar to like other weapons you might have in your arsenal. It works fairly effectively like that. So go for weak points on Devastators. Highly recommend. Even like on Berserkers and stuff like that. Of course, we have the ultimatum. Like I didn't really say it for the first build, but if you feel like you don't need the ultimatum or you need something more to lean on as like a normal primary, you obviously have your Talon. You know, I've seen some people, and personally myself, shoot the Talon a bunch, let it like overheat, maybe just quite not fully overheating so you don't have to reload it, and then swap to your Talon, fire the Talon a bunch of shots, swap to back to your Trident, Talon, Trident, Talon. It's a fantastic combo. You're gonna see me using a little bit more with the laser cannon later with another build, but it's definitely a go-to of mine. If you feel like you just need like a good trusty sidearm, you always have the Verdict. A lot of options here, but once again, it's always like a personalized thing. If you feel like you need something for like team stims and stuff like that, and you're that kind of person, go for it. It'll work well. Going into our stratagems, we start off with the EPOG. Absolutely love this thing as like my go-to for supporting teammates that are trying to take out Vox, trying to take out War Striders, Hulks. You can do groups of Devastators and so on and so forth. It's really good for like everything. It might not be the master of anything, but it's really good at dealing with everything. Very good chip damage on Vox. If you want to pair this with like your ultimatum shot and then immediately swap into a bunch of epoch shots, or if you see a teammate leveler shot a Vox, you know you're basically one shot away of the epoch to taking out that Vox. Very good at War Striders. If you guys are getting tired of War Strider spam, this thing is fantastic. 2 shots to the undercarriage, cleans them up very well. You can actually take out more than one if they're standing close enough together. Get a good splash damage on that. Absolutely love the epoch. If you can go for vent shots, you can destroy the vent. It does have a decent amount of impact damage. Just, I love this thing. Just get used to it. It will take some time. time. You will probably blow yourself up a little bit, but some like top tips off the top of my head is that you can go first person. You have a bar. When it shows red, fire it. Listen for the audible, but don't rely on the audible too much. The last thing I'd recommend is if you want to play more in third person is watch the reticle. It shrinks, and then when it's ready to fire in like the total mode, it pops out a little bit. Watch for that little sign and it will actually save you a bunch, because Helldivers is really loud and a lot of the more quiet stuff gets cut out because of the audio. So it can help you a ton. Next, we have the supply backpack. It just works really well with the Epoch. I don't think you need it though. So this is going to be my first flex for this build. Hellbound backpack works really well if you want to play more aggressive with that trident. Swapping on the Hellbound backpack, too many enemies in front of you, or a bot drop is coming in right on that location, or you're doing like orbital cannon objective, bring that. It'll make it a lot easier for you. Hellbound backpack is just fantastic for it. Next, because I wanted to use this as more of like a team support to pair with your shield generator, I really love bringing the massive shield generator on top of the grenade. It might feel a little redundant, but this is more for the team or dealing with the Vox in general. I do love if you're in that 1v1 situation with a Vox and you just want to lay down fire with your Epoch, this gives you the opportunity to do it. Or if you're just even running away from a Vox, just throwing this down and keep running. They have to shoot through the shield in order to shoot you. Just really strong for that. I absolutely love having at least one person on team, especially if you're doing flag missions, to bring this. It'll make your extract far easier. It'll make your flag mission far easier. It'll just make bot drops even easier. Throwing this down right before bot drop happens, it just gives you that chance to not get flinched while shooting, because that was another reason why I brought the shield grenade. Is just you get flinched a ton when using the Epoch, and if they flinch you at a bad time, you're either shooting the ground, shooting something like a teammate, or like your shot is going out into outer space. That sucks. I hate that. And then lastly, we have the 120mm barrage. Obviously, this is kind of that flex of like some kind of red stratagem that you enjoy. If you are someone that likes your Galling barrage or your strafing run, watch out for those AA emplacements. They suck. But 120 is really nice because you'll always have it for the bot drop. And if you keep that mental note of, I'm only going to use it on bot drops, it's fantastic. Really, really love it for that. Now we're starting with the amendment. I love this thing. Gonna give it a little bit of screen time because it's just such a satisfying weapon to use. One tapping tier 1 bots, one tapping berserkers and devastators in the eye, one tapping radicals in the head. You'll take about 3 shots, 2 shots to break the armor, 1 shot for your agitators. Fantastic for that. I just love this thing. I put like a 4x on it, maybe medium zoom. It just feels so good for just one tapping. It's a very satisfying weapon. I can't stop raving about it. It's not your S tier weapon. You could easily swap this out for something else. I would understand, but I'm gonna keep plugging it. Ultimatum, or I would probably recommend something more oriented towards like ad clear when you need to reload or you just need a backup weapon. Talon, verdict, so on and so forth. And then lastly, I'm taking my thermite. You'll see in a second why. The idea of my stratagem choices here is I want to just take out all of the Vox while also being an absolute menace on flag just spawns in general, any of the flag missions. So C4 is really good for spawn camping any of the bot drops that happen next to flags. C4 is by far the most effective way to take out with a single stratagem a Vox. I have the leveler there for just mass deletion of enemies. If let's say the flag gets overrun, I could just pop that one and just get a huge multi-kill. And then I also have the leveler if I'm kind of running low on C4, you can always like throw one C4, leveler the Vox, and then the leveler will actually detonate the C4 on it, essentially one-shotting it, which is really nice. 2 C4 plus an ultimatum shot work really well. 2 thermite plus 1 C4 should work. 2 C4 to be safe. And then I have the solo silo there for just some extra ad clear if I need it. I'll kind of put it off point slightly, and then I'll call it in if let's say I just need like an area cleared. And then Galling barrage for spawn camping any Vox that I just can't get, or just dealing with massive amounts of devastators running towards point. This is if you just hate, and I mean hate, Vox. Going back to the amendment is very good for killing vents. 2 taps them with the fast fire rate. It works really well. And then you might be like, thermite can't go in the vent. Well, I spent a lot of time today testing it, and yes, you can in fact throw the thermite at the bottom of like the bottom vent. So if you're looking at it after it opens up and you have the cubby hole, there's like kind of like a pocket. It looks like it's like stitched in like on like a shirt pocket or something like that. You can see the outline of it. You want to aim at the bottom half of that. And if you do it right, you throw it and it basically just phases right into the pocket, you hear the sound and it blows up like immediately. They're probably going to fix that, but if you have thermites and you are close enough to shoot vents, you can save some extra thermites. You don't need all 3 and just end up throwing the thermite like that. Even if you miss and it just like attaches to the actual pocket itself, it's still doing really good damage to the Vox. It's all good. Let's say you only have 1 thermite left and you missed it. It didn't get the phase through. Just shoot the other vents up top and he'll probably die from all the vents breaking and that thermite, hopefully. So really love this build. If I feel like I'm going too Vox heavy, what I would probably do if I wanted to be like a better teammate for, let's say, flags, is I would go like shield generator, or I would maybe like go like orbital precision, 120, gas strike, always a really solid one, because at least with gas, you get a little more extra damage, and just in general, really short cooldowns. So really nice for those flag missions when you're just feeling overwhelmed and you don't have gas elsewhere in your build. Next, we have the Purifier, another S tier weapon in my opinion. Extremely consistent versus the cyborgs. You're not always going to one tap them with the charge shot unless you hit a head shot on the radicals, but very good for like one shot, and then like you could do the tap instead of having to charge up a second shot. Very good for the spawn camping. Not as good as the GL that you're about to see on the stratagem front, but I really like just bringing it as just an alternative for ad clear, and it's really nice over the Scorcher because you have the really high burst damage of the shots and then like the charge shots, and then you can just tap fire if anything gets too close. And what's nice is that we're doing jet troopers, so one tap of the regular shot destroys the backpack on all the jet troopers, so you can actually just one tap them and then they'll burn to death or just die immediately because of the explosion on their back. Really nice. The other two, I'm going to be doing the ultimatum and the thermite, and that's because I have the GL on. The GL obviously got buffed recently, getting the heavy armor. Pair that with the supply backpack, you're going to feel like you need it because of the low total reserve ammo of the GL, but this thing is so nice for like War Strider, like hordes, Devastator hordes, cyborg bot drops. Like it's just really good for like total ad clearing. And then if you pair that with like a leveler and hopefully a strafing run that isn't blocked by AA, try to look for those AA, 2-shot them with the grenade launcher. Highly recommend. It works really well for that. It's just an overall really nice build for like mass ad clear. Voxes will be a bit of a problem, but that's why you have the leveler, that's why you have the thermites, and that's why you have the ultimatum. Hopefully swapping between your GL and Purifier is more than enough for the ads that get too close to you. If not, you can always swap out like thermites for like some gas if you just need some more breathing space. Highly recommend. Okay, next we have our laser build. This one's a bit of a novelty, but I still think it's quite effective. We start off with the Scythe. Fantastic on the cold planet, just very nice in the hands of someone who's quite precise. And precision does matter because you're using a laser weapon. It doesn't have as much upfront damage, so you're gonna have to be able to trace weak spots a fair bit. But I do really like this. It sets enemies on fire quite fast, and because of the cold planet, you're gonna see why in a second. I just really love swapping back and forth to it. Ultimatum, I love having some AT in my build, and that's where I get a lot of it. And then Pyrotechnic Grenade, if you have not tried the Pyrotechnic Grenade, I absolutely love this thing, having 6 of them. Really good ballistic anti-tank damage, then an explosion, and then lots of fire afterwards. Just really good if you can place it at the feet of a Devastator group that is dropping from a dropship. Really nice to just throw around. I absolutely love these, and it's really good for like fabricators and stuff like that too, because you get 6 of them. So really nice for that. The reason why I was calling it the laser build is because we have the laser cannon. You're going to be swapping between the laser cannon and the Scythe back and forth as you're ad clearing. Use the laser cannon the majority of the time just because it's doing more damage and has more higher pen, but every time the laser cannon is getting a little bit too high on heat, let's say 75% or so, swap to the Scythe, fire that until it starts to get close to overheating, and swap to laser cannon back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. For those that are new to the game, it's a really fun playthrough to go back and forth with. You don't have to use the Scythe. You could use like the sickle or trident, something like that, but something that has auto reloading would be best. Even the blitzer technically works with this build. I take the personal shield generator here just to keep me on target. Using the laser cannon, if you get flinched, it's really annoying because your aim is all over the place. You want to stay as stable as possible, but this also will keep you alive versus those Vox encounters, which can be annoying. The next 2 red stratagems, I'm mostly just doing for the idea of laser, but there are some caveats to it. As I've explained in my tier list videos, laser and orbital rail cannon have targeting issues. They love to target dropships. They love to target fabricators in instead of your Vox. And because Vox have 2 massive laser cannons on either side, they have separate hitboxes. If you ever use the spear, you'll know that there's 3 tracking points across the head. The laser and the orbital rail cannon do not always go for the head, unfortunately. So sometimes they might feel wasted because the laser or orbital rail cannon will waste a ton of time trying to take out those elements. So your mileage may vary on how successful laser and orbital rail cannon be, but hopefully it works out well for you. If you want something more consistent, you always have orbital precision. If this hits that Vox, it does a ton of damage, enough so that it's going to be very close to one shot. So another ultimatum shot or a thermite can easily finish it, especially if it hits some vents at the back of the head. And then if you wanted to have something more like, you know, universal, you have your barrages, of course. If you want more ad clear, you have orbital napalm. I would probably stay away from like any turrets and stuff like that. I haven't been impressed with them on Cyberstan at all. So, you know, this is where you have like portable hell bomb. If you want to swap it out for your shield every once in a while, just to run in, drop it, run away. Leveler EATs for just a little bit more ad clear. I find the weakness of this build is mostly War Striders. So bringing EATs is not a bad option at all. You know, every 60 seconds being able to take out 2 War Striders is quite effective. So for the purpose of just well-rounded build, I'm going to grab the EATs as kind of like my go-to here. Next, I couldn't include one without the Eruptor. I don't think the Eruptor is as good as the crossbow on cyborgs just because it feels a bit too slow for how rush them down the cyborgs feel, right? Those radicals are just getting in your face constantly, and then the agitators are pissing off all the bots and they're running at you as well. And then you put the jet troopers as well. It can feel a bit like overwhelming. So take the Eruptor with some amount of care, you know, that you feel comfortable with it. But I really like it in this particular build, and you'll see in a second why. But I really like using my Eruptor for the occasional agitator at range, radical at range, or just AoE damage for those groups of enemies. You can't leave home without the ultimatum, but obviously, like we've talked about with previous ones, you have other options, but I take my ultimatum for the Vox, and then I have gas grenade just for some CC. The reason why is because of the HMG. The HMG will feel so good when it has ammo in it. It'll feel so bad when you have to reload it. So the reason why I'm taking like gas grenades and stuff like that is to give me some more breathing space. I can throw that out right in front of me. So if there's anything trying to rush towards me, I have time to finish that reload. Top tip though for HMG, if you feel like the handling is too slow, you know, you can always swap over to something like peak physique armor to just make it feel better with the handling. It won't obviously affect the reload speed, but my next tip is for that. Don't empty the magazine. The worst mistake you can make with the HMG is empty the magazine. Having to do the full reload, then have to clear the chamber, like, and cock the next round, like, it's just, or charge the handle, it just takes too much time, too much additional time. It feels like an eternity. But if you don't finish off that magazine, the reload feels way more bearable, and you can feel like you can actually fit it in between fights. So highly recommend. Supply backpack goes along with HMG just because of the only 2 reserve magazines. Please Arrowhead, give it a 3rd magazine at least. It deserves it. And then lastly, I have my 120 just for bot drops to help me clear out things, and Gatling barrage for any Fox that are, you know, starting to get a little too close, or I notice that are dropping in that bot drop. Slight little caveat to this build is that you can easily run it instead with a railgun and just continue to run this. I would probably swap out my Eruptor for probably like a Trident or something like that as like a bonus flex, because the railgun will be mostly used for your larger enemies, and there's going to be a lot of enemies kind of rushing you down that you're not going to have that HMG for support. So you're kind of want to have something like an auto shotty like the Trident to clear out those enemies that are getting too close. Like I say, most of the time I would probably avoid Eagles for the most part, but Strafing Run is a good flex item for the Gatling barrage. Leveler is always a solid option, Soul Silo as well. EATs, you can use the tank. They did fix the shells, but it can sometimes be pretty hard. Just make sure not to get hit on the sides or the back with the Bastion. There's some serious weak points there. So yeah, that's going to conclude my loadout video for now. These are just some of the ones that I have been really enjoying, but I want to know, what are you using? I want to know in the comments down below. Like, these are just some of the ones. There's so many variations and different ways to play. Like, I didn't touch on any of the stealth builds, but I know that you guys want to share your stealth builds out there. So please feel free to rattle off in the comments down below. You know, let me know what kind of stealth builds you guys are running, what armor, what weapons. I'm sure
intro, I'm going to see a lot of censors. It's a fan favorite out there. But yeah, I love to see what you guys have to offer down below. Feel free to drop by the stream, Poula_TV, both on YouTube or on Twitch. Remember, it's not this YouTube channel. It's my alternate YouTube channel, Poula_TV. We're trying to hit 1,000 subs. Try to help us out there, please. It'd be an amazing goal to hit. So yeah, check out the Discord link down below and hopefully see you guys on stream. Peace out. Bye, YouTube.